The Texans are preparing for something. They need a couple extra players. There's been some rumors about what positions they could go after. The offensive line is a little bit loose, and the secondary could be rounded out with another player. And the Texans probably have one of the best secondaries in the league, but adding this former Defensive Player of the Year could just round it out perfectly. Not to mention, he is a veteran. He didn't have the best season last year, but again, you want to have the benefit of the doubt here because injuries can happen at anything. And I think Nick Caserio has done a good job of keeping depth at certain positions, but this is going to go a long way. So if you're new to the channel, 83% of you are not subscribed. Would really appreciate any support. You guys have been killing it on the past videos. Comment down below your thoughts on the Texans. We got a little while till the season, but why not talk about some entertaining stuff with Stephon Diggs potentially signing with the Houston Texans? It's definitely interesting to look at, considering when you look at this team's depth chart, it is kind of crazy in terms of what are they looking to add in terms of offensive line, defensive line. But one thing I will add is that the secondary, it could use an extra player or two. You have, and I don't want to say it, but Derek Stingley just got paid. He's had some history with injuries in college. First season in the league, didn't finish the whole season. Last year, great season, amazing season. But you always have to have that what-if factor. I'm not saying that's going to happen or anything, but you have to keep that in the back of your head. You know, anyone can get injured. You want to have depth on depth on depth. You look at the Texans' defensive line, one of the better positions of the team. You have Will Anderson, DeMeco Autry, Sheldon Rankings, Lorenzo Fatukasi, Mario Addison, Daniil Hunter, Darrell Taylor. There's just, I can continue to do this all day because there's so many players that just rotate in and out. Now, if you look at Stephon Gilmore's PFF grade, it's not that good. The past game, he was a liability. Now, we will give him the benefit of the doubt because Brian Flores' system operates more off of zone and zone blitzes. He plays a little bit of man, but the biggest thing with Stephon Gilmore is the fact that he wasn't great in coverage, probably because he didn't have the best schemes. He was good in the run game, but he's also a very good play recognizer, and that's another thing you want to look out for. Now, I love Stephon Gilmore, but there is one thing you cannot deny. He is 34 years old. Now, I don't think anybody wants to sign a 34-year-old cornerback. That's just the fact of the matter. But honestly, I really wouldn't hate it for depth on this team. The Texans have a lot of cornerbacks to begin with. You got Derek Stingley. You got Jalen Pitre. You got Kamari Lassiter. You got great secondary help. Kalen Bullock, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But the depth after Pitre, it gets a little bit subject to question. You got Ronald Darby. You got Trayman Smith. Jalen Smith, a new rookie you just signed. You have to question where is the depth if somebody were to go down. That was the biggest problem for the Texans last year is they did not have the next man up mentality because John Mechie physically couldn't step up in the wide receiving room. And I have to bring up injuries because we've had this happen to us as a team before, so you need to be prepared. You're now prepared for the receiver, but what if 2 or 3 of your defensive stars go down? Is that just what you mark up the Texans as? They just had an injury-riddled season. They'll be fine next year. No, you don't want that. You have to be prepared for that. In the worst-case scenario for this team, if you do have injuries, not just cornerback, but if it's a linebacker, if it's defensive end, you need to be ready to have that next man up and have a good depth piece to the depth piece. I'm not saying you need a star player at every position because you can't afford to pay a second stringer money, first string money. But you need to be able to round out your whole team, and I feel like cornerback, although the starters are great, there's a little bit of loose in terms of the depth of the team. So I wouldn't mind getting Stephon Gilmore for a little bit of a cheap contract, a minimum deal. Why not? But I feel like the Texans aren't physically going to sign anyone until something goes wrong, if you will. And I think that's probably the worst case scenario is that if the Texans do sign somebody, worst case scenario because you have somebody get hurt, that's when you could panic. Last year, the Texans had wide receiver injuries. We mentioned it. Deontay Johnson was signed, didn't do anything. So to plan that out ahead of time is going to be pretty crucial. And Gilmore's the best free agent remaining, but he's 34 years old. Didn't have the best season with the Vikings, but still, 9 pass deflections is pretty standing out. That stands out. And it makes me think the veteran presence is there, right? You have these young guys, Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Pitre. Those are 2 young studs. Even Derek Stingley. Coach them up. why not bring in a veteran? He doesn't have to start, but have him sit behind somebody at any position. Any veteran is going to help you out. Now, I ask you guys, does this make sense? I really think it's a low risk, high reward type of situation for Gilmore because he's most likely not going to see the field and he can coach so many guys up. Let me hear your thoughts on what is the best position that the Texans could potentially go after, because cornerback is one of them that I look at because it's like, I don't know, you could have a problem here if somebody goes down. So again, the defense is something I question. I know they've been great, but the only reason I bring it up is because when things normally go good for the Texans and Texans fans, you can agree or disagree with me. They're totally fine. But there are times when you think something's going really well, and then all of a sudden, it just falls apart for all the wrong reasons. Last year, we thought the offense, at least I did, I thought it was going to be pretty good. You brought in Stephon Diggs. You brought in Joe Mixon. You have a second-year quarterback who played great in his first year, and then the offense just kind of went terribly down. Yes, there were some factors. The offensive line didn't hold up. The offensive play calling was terrible. Bobby Slowick got fired, and they fixed that. But now I feel like we gloss over the fact that the defense should do its job. And I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because it is DeMeco Ryans. But I have a weird fear that we're just thinking it's going to be fine and then everything's going to go wrong again. So I just feel like it's something to bring to anybody's attention that, yes, you need depth, but it's probably not going to be the most depth in the world that you want. You're going to rely on your starters. That makes the most sense. But again, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's had problems in the secondary. Cornerback last year for the Eagles. It was pretty bad in coverage. But, again, with the coaching of DeMeco Ryans on the defensive side, I think anybody that they want can fit this system in terms of how do they want to run this defense. Sheldon Rankins, a couple of years ago, was a great fit for this team with DeMeco Ryans as a first-year head coach. So, realistically, I'm overreacting about kind of the team and how it's going, but that's kind of the biggest thing I will say is when you're looking at the Texans, the one thing that they can do well is coach. And on top of that, this is the new and improved team to look forward to for the next decade. I feel like we talked about it more and more over the past few videos, but C.J. Stroud is the franchise quarterback of this team. There is no debating that. DeMeco Ryans is the future star head coach of this team. He should have won Coach of the Year. He will eventually, but he's a great coach. And anybody who's going to sit here and argue with me that C.J. Stroud is not a franchise quarterback, I think it's crazy. I saw a few comments on the last video, and it just really is confusing to me how you're going to say C.J. Stroud is somebody you should not sign to a max contract. Brock Purdy got that deal because who else do the Niners have at quarterback? If you move on from C.J. Stroud, you say, yeah, he had a bad sophomore year. He's only going to continue to do that. He doesn't wow you throwing the ball. You don't need a quarterback that wows you. Look at Tom Brady. He didn't wow anybody. He did what he had to do to win. That's what C.J. Stroud does. He won back-to-back division titles. He won back-to-back years with a playoff win. What rookie and second-year quarterback is winning you 2 playoff games in 2 years? Like, let's be real. Now, there's not many players like that left. So, although C.J. Stroud doesn't do anything crazy, he can do a lot well. He can do well in the pocket. He can run. He's not the best runner, but he can run. He can throw off platform. Again, not the best at it. He can throw short. He can throw middle. He doesn't do everything perfect, but he does it well. And that's the thing is, like, when you look at C.J. Stroud, I know this is supposed to be a Stephon Diggs video, but I've gone on the tangent now just mentioning the comments from the last video, so I have to talk about it. But C.J. Stroud is going to get paid, and he deserves it. It really doesn't make any sense to me how you can kind of just criticize him for his lack of efforts when the team kind of fell apart with him last year. He had nobody to throw the ball to. He had no time to throw anybody the ball, and nobody could help him. So that's basically what happens. So Stroud, now you got Collins, now you got Higgins, now you got Noel, now you got Kirk, now you got Justin Watson, you got Braxton Berrios. There's no excuse the offense shouldn't succeed this year, and if it doesn't, I would be surprised. But as for the defense, Stephon Gilmore would definitely help round out that core in terms of how do you think about making this team better before the season. However, it's unlikely considering the fact that this team is pretty much finalized, and I'm just kind of entertaining fluff articles at this point and just, big entertaining, oh, what if the Texans, they're not going to do this. But you have to talk about it. Why not? It's something that's potentially talked about, but I don't really believe it happens. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stephon Gilmore, potentially to the Texans. It's a weird one. But let me know any future videos you want to see. It's been a little bit dry with content considering we still have a long few months left of the offseason. You got minicamp sort of coming up, and then the 53-man roster cut. So slowly but surely, we will be making our way into the season. More and more headlines will be coming up about the upcoming season. So thank you everyone so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that sub button if you want to see the latest Texans news. And as always, drop your thoughts in the comments. This has been Mike Zanetti, Texans Digest. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video.